It's good, y'all. It's good, y'all. Russ is in the chat. Shout out Russ. He should be joining. Should be joining. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Monty. Shout out Monty, man, because he's the one who has been pressing us to be live today. More often. So he put that poll out that y'all were cooking us for no reason, talking about Malik Brown is going to return before us. Come on, man. Let us live. Let us live, man. Yeah, where is Bruce Wayne, man? Where is Bruce Wayne? I
Bruce
haven't
Wayne
seen.
is quiet.
I haven't seen him. I don't think I've seen him once. Maybe he came Kentucky. He came out to Kentucky. The biggest hater has not showed his face all year, unfortunately. Give me a second. Let me get this out. Video. All right, this is just doing its own thing. All right, let's get it started. Let's get it started.
The three of you guys, man, thank you for what you guys do, and appreciate you guys having me on.
We were trying not to score, and everything was about 33s or something.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of felt that. We kind of feed off that energy.
This place is amazing. Like I really love Duke, and I love the atmosphere I'm in here.
Mark Williams, beast mode. Paolo first half, he had the cramping stuff. Fair enough. Beast mode.
All right, we're back. We're back. The crazy cast. After all, the messages we've been spammed with, the trolling, the I don't know what you call it. We've been getting killed on Twitter. To come back, we're back. We're back with one of three. This is gonna be one of three episodes in the next 7 days. So no complaints. We're back. We're gonna be back, and we're gonna give you a show in the middle of this before our next show on Saturday. So we're back after another Duke blowout. Russ is in the chat. He should be joining soon. He has some daddy duties, so the children come first, as always. Got my guy Ryan here, fresh off of a Duke blowout, 25-point win over Boston College. Another road blowout. Every road victory has been by 10 plus. There was a lot of over exaggeration with the first 10 minutes of the game, but we'll get into that. Ryan, man, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. It's been a busy season, and we were talking beforehand. It's been one of those seasons that's been kind of nice to be a little bit busier because we haven't had to worry a lot in the last month and a half or so. This Duke team's just playing really well. It kind of seems like every game so far has kind of been the same with Duke. I know the Miami game, they get off to a fast start, but kind of like tonight, they just get off to maybe a little bit slower starts and then kind of figure it out. Shots start falling defensively. They step it up, especially in the second half. So it's been fun to see. It's just kind of like, it's kind of nice to have like worry-free games back to back to back to back to back. And hopefully that continues. Obviously a big part of that is the ACC being as down as it is again this year. But what do good teams do? They beat teams. They beat them the way that Duke has been doing it. And so for me, it's been like since November, which is crazy to think about. It's been a pretty stress-free season. Knock on wood, there's a lot of time left. The Malik Brown injury is not great. And I think any time you go on the road in the ACC, there's a potential for it to be a tough matchup, especially going to Wake next week, although the talent level isn't there for them like it was last year. But yeah, like I'm not jinxing or anything. It's just been a nice stress-free couple months, and I don't think we're used to that, especially in January with road ACC games. So I'm enjoying it right now. How about you?
Man, I have no complaints. No complaints. I mean, this is a great season, man. It's really everything you can hope for. And like I said, the nicks and bruises we got in November were just, and December. I think that game was December. Were just to really prepare us for the long haul, and the long haul has been terrific. Great performance today. What are we looking at numbers wise? Cooper Flagg, 28 points. Efficient. He's been unreal. He's been clearly the best player in the country. Um, Tyrese Proctor tonight, steady vet.
Yeah.
A lot of people will, he takes a lot of unnecessary criticism at times, but I think this year you can't really ask for a better year from him. Russ Moocher, Mike, man, you come in all right, come on, Russ, what are you doing here? Let me mute him. Russ, text me when you're ready. Coming with your mic hot. But yeah, Tyrese has been great. Isaiah Evans was great tonight. I think it's just with this team, it's just so many weapons. So many weapons we've seen consistently all year. Like I said in the beginning of the game, people were concerned with the struggles. Even the telecast. I don't hate Corey Alexander like y'all hate Corey Alexander.
Oh man, he was rough.
Frying Corey Alexander. I'm not gonna do that because he also fouls me, so I'm never gonna partake in that. But I think in the first half they were even doing too much with Duke is, if you just tuning in, there's a surprise right now. Boston College is up 2 points. I'm like, man, it's been 15 minutes. Can you let the game develop? It's a road game. It's a road game. Let the game develop. Let the boys settle in. And it was a solid road environment too. This was probably one of the better road environments after Arizona that they've seen all year. So it took a minute for them to get going, but once they got going, come on, bro. No, there's not an ACC team right now that is putting a challenge up on this team. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of over exaggerations to start the game, but ultimately the team, even with them giving up 34 points in the first half, 34 held them to 29 in the second half, scored 48 in the second half. That little stretch of Isaiah and Cooper, that is going to be one of my favorite moments all year. Just Isaiah and Cooper trading threes, talking smack to the crowd, and they couldn't do anything about it.
No, they couldn't. I want to go back to the Corey Alexander thing real quick. That man was talking about Mason Gillis playing the 5. He was talking about Cooper Flagg's parents making the short drive down from Maine. It's like they live in North Carolina now. Someone needed to tell him that off air or something, because that was getting ridiculous. And Sean Smith, my biggest fan, is back calling me the Corey Alexander of this podcast. That's
hate.
That's just, it's been a while. I forgot that I had a hater in here. So shout out to you, Sean. Appreciate you coming back to watch this. But I think you nailed it. The fact that we have outside shooting to an extent, and Proctor and Isaiah Evans. The other thing, I don't know how much you guys talked about it last time, but Mason Gillis kind of coming around now and having a really good stretch of the last few games, making impactful plays. Just another solid all around vet. Sion James as well, these guys are just doing what they were brought in to do, which is so nice to see. And then you still have guys like Cooper Flagg and Tyrese stepping up scoring wise. The Con Knipple donut tonight is a little surprising after his most recent performance, but again, if Con Knipple can play the way he did, which wasn't terrible outside of, he didn't really get a lot of shots up, it just wasn't falling right away, which is fine. But the fact that we still won by 25 points and he did that, that's scary to me. And having a guy like Isaiah Evans off the bench really helps that. But I'll let you go ahead, head Zion or Russ jump in.
Yeah, before Russ jump in, even to that point, I know people will harp on it. It's because the same thing happened with Tyrese the past 2 games. I saw it. I tell you, I read everything, I watch everything. People were like, "Oh, Tyrese Proctor was off. The past couple games, he's been bad." No, it's just when there's so much talent on this team, when other people are stepping up, and one is not having their night, one is just going to have to suffer and not have the points or numbers that they usually do. We saw it tonight with Khan, who was the fill-in for Khan. It was Isaiah Evans, So every game is not going to be 15, 15, 15, 25 of Cooper, Like it's not always going to be like that. There are going to be games where Khan is going to have, hopefully not a donut. Hopefully not a donut. He's going to have 7 points. Tyrese is going to have 9 points, 6 points. Kaman is going to have 5 points. It's just going to happen when you have so much talent on this team, and especially because there is one consistent alpha male. We know Cooper is going to give us what he gives us. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing or a red flag. It's just it happens when you're a really good team. But we got Russ here. Welcome, Russ. Give us your early thoughts.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I was signing up and starting a TikTok account, so everybody can follow me there. Boy, good game. Not a great first half, but like you're still in the lead at halftime. So I mean, it's that kind of year. I feel like when the spread is like 25, right? You want to be up. Like you're watching the spread. You're not watching the wins and losses. You're watching like, are we achieving to the extent that we should be achieving? And in the first half, we didn't, right? I don't know what the first half spread was. I'm sure it was like 13 or 12, somewhere in there, right? We didn't get there. But, all things considered, it was pretty good. It was good to see Cooper get mad. I love when Cooper gets mad. Isaiah Evans was really like setting the tone out there too. He was talking in the was it the end of the first half when he started wolfing at the crowd a little bit and started shushing people?
Yeah,
it's kind of when it started getting a little chippy, in my opinion.
Yeah, good. We needed it. We needed the fire. I mean, like the team was not awake. Really sleeping. Through those first 10 minutes. So I love the energy. I love when we're playing a terrible team like Boston College that we can find a way to build up that motivation and say, hey, they're they're not giving us the respect we deserve, and let's woof at them a little bit, especially because they committed a flagrant or two before we really started to get pissed. So once that happened, I thought that was great. Obviously, we played some really bad teams this week, so it's hard to assess too much, given that we played terrible teams. But I think it's good to continue to press forward, to not be winning these games by like 8 points, to be winning them handily. I think is really, really good. I do think that the first half and generally the Malawach foul trouble was an indication that, man, we're not going to emerge unscathed from this Malik Brown absence, I don't think.
You're calling an L for sure?
Well, I mean, the odds that we were going to lose a game at some point are very strong, right? Like, at some point we will lose a game. I just feel like the chances that we lose it specifically because we get, dealt some trouble inside, where Malawach, faces a guy that maybe is a bit like, I feel like the guy on BC I was only like kind of half, like 3/4 watching, but like, I feel like he was kind of stout, wasn't he? Like he had he must have been older. He must have been an older guy.
Who, Benning?
Yeah. Is he older?
Oh, yeah.
But he had like muscle, right? Like he and Malawach is just like, he's tall and lanky. He's strong, but like he's not. I'm 6'9", 2 whatever Venning must be, right? Like I definitely felt like he was getting the better of Malawach, getting to his positions exactly the way he wanted to. And I think, Zion, you were the one who tweeted, this felt like a game where Malik Brown comes in very early on, if Malik Brown was available. So, again, when we're playing bad teams, it's not the end of the world. Do I feel like there's going to be a game where on the road a team is giving our bigs trouble, pounds it inside over and over and over again, but we keep running switches and it ends up biting us a little bit? Yeah, I think it's likely that happens. That doesn't mean we won't be a 1 seed at the end of the day. That doesn't mean we don't have title contention. It's just, I think that people think we're going to just run the table. And I think running the table without Malik is going to be really hard.
I don't disagree. I think it's hard for me to find a big man in the ACC.
I was trying to think of one or look something up because I
think it's less. I'm less concerned about it being like a true big man and more about it being like somebody who's like 6'8", 6'9", has good footwork and has like grown man strength, right?
Yeah.
Like those sorts of guys were guys that Malik just has the strength and sort of the quickness of hands and just the experience of knowing footwork wise how to counter those sorts of dudes. Or obviously, if we play a team that wants to try to go all 5 out, right, and then Malawach is having to switch on the outside a bunch, or Pat's going to have to switch on the outside. Malik is a killer in the switch at the 5. So it's less finding like a stud big man that will destroy us, and more it's going to be some 6'9" goon with good footwork who's all of a sudden going to give us like 22 and 12 or whatever, right? Like, it's something like that.
I think it's definitely more the 5 out team that worries me than, because even when these teams, the past 2 teams, obviously Miami's a bad team. The team who we play tonight, Boston College, they're a bad team. But they consistently try to throw the ball into the post. You're not going to beat Duke from the post. You're not, because number one, you're not going to get enough stops on the other end to combat the just going for 2s every time. And then when Duke,
Duke takes too many 3s to beat us only by 2s. Yeah.
And then when Duke starts hitting 3s, even tonight, they didn't even shoot that well from 3, but when they start hitting 3s, them post ups down 12 or 10, they don't matter. You're not going to come back in the game posting the ball up. So I'm actually more scared of the team that is capable of hitting 15 threes off a 5 out than really the interior post presence.
I felt like in the Miami game, a lot of what Kidd did was hitting those sorts of long mid-rangers, right? I didn't feel like he was doing a lot of he's not really like a muscle game. He's more of a finesse game. I definitely look at something like this Wake Forest game where they've got Spillers and they've got Efton Reed, who can obviously do a little bit of spacing. They're sort of playing like a 2 big lineup in that respect. If you want to call Spillers a big man, but he scores on the inside. That's what he wants to do. So I don't know. That's going to be a really interesting matchup. I know somebody was mentioning in the comments, but more than anything, I want to see how John is John just going to continue to play the way we've been playing under the assumption that Malik will be back in, let's say, a couple of weeks, right? Or is he going to realize, or not realize? I'm sure he realizes, but is he going to factor in? Okay, we've got Clemson, we've got UNC, we've got some marquee games coming up. Let's prep maybe some flashes of zone that we can throw at them, or let's flash some not for full games, but for a few possessions to throw off rhythms.
I think he might have went with zone for a little bit tonight. I was like you 3/4 watching. I thought I saw him in it at one point. Not you're still on point with what you're saying. I think he might have done that tonight a little bit. I could be wrong.
I didn't see a lot of it. People in the comments,
it wasn't a lot for whatever it's worth.
And I mean, we're not going to be able to zone somebody or pack the paint. We're not going to be able to do that against a team like Clemson that shoots the 3 really well. But against teams that don't shoot the 3 especially well or especially often, I mean, if I look at a game like the UNC game where they're going to really want to get inside through dribble drive, they're going to want to draw fouls. That's how they score a lot of their points, is at the free throw line. We know what their game plan is going to be, and it's not going to be to win by shooting 3s. That's just not their game plan at all. So then how do we counter that? Do we continue to run our switch everything defense against a team like that when they're going to try to just get Malawach versus, Trimble or whomever, and then just, drive them inside over and over again? Or are we going to throw some different looks at them in those sorts of games? Maybe Gillis at the 5. I did see some Gillis at the 5 today, and I thought those minutes seemed pretty effective. So maybe some of that'll work too. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what John does.
Yeah, I don't even think I still don't even think they would need to flash a zone at any point. Tonight I thought they were going to, because BC was literally getting everything in the paint, and they had, I think at one point I looked at the box score, they maybe attempted 4 or 5 threes and
they don't shoot 3s all year. They have not shot 3s. Yeah.
So I was like, all right, just make them try to make them shoot. But
totally.
I think John is also a little bit prideful in the defense that he has, that he probably won't feel like he needs to do anything. It's a top three defense in the country. Why do I need to change my scheme to fit what they're doing? Nah, they got to beat our defense. I feel like he's going to take that more approach.
And he may be right. It might work out. He may be right. I just think that the thing that has made Duke one of the best defenses in the country has been the versatility of it on the whole this season. And without Malik being able to switch in at the 5, unless we play more Mason at the 5, then I feel like the versatility becomes slightly more limited for those 20 minutes a game that Malik has been playing. And 20 minutes is a lot of game, so
yeah,
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he decides to do.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to touch on something because I think I tweeted this maybe last month or a couple weeks ago, and just random fans from college basketball, NBA Twitter just want to chime in when I'm just talking to Duke fans, but I still thought I was right. I'll let y'all tell me if I'm crazy or not. So I tweeted that if Duke was undefeated, and obviously this is at this point is 16-2, they would be 18-0 if two possessions, 2 end of game possessions, they would be 18-0. Would the media be talking about them? I'm not even saying I'm talking about them in this right. Would the media be talking about them as one of the greatest college teams in recent history?
I mean, yes,
Yeah,
obviously. Like, obviously.
I mean, depends your definition of recent, though. Like, I mean, maybe in the last 25 years, probably. I mean, I think it's obvious if you say recent as in the last 5 to 10 years. If you stretch it out to the last.
All right, then let me take out recent ever.
I mean, numbers are gonna say. I mean, I know there's not always a big reception for numbers on this show, but the numbers would show if we were. What would you say, 18-0? That yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we just finish those 2 games, there's no reason why we shouldn't be. If we execute down the stretch on 2 of the biggest games we've played in this year, we should be. But I don't see how that's anything crazy. A team starting 18-0 in college basketball, especially with a blue blood like Duke, is going to start to get that recognition for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, UConn last year was 16-2 at this point, and they're definitely one of the best teams of the last, however long. Obviously, 2021 was kind of weird, but Gonzaga and Baylor were both undefeated at this point, and certainly the discourse at that point in that season was that these are 2 of the best teams in ages, right? 2019, you look at the UVA team, they were 17-1 at that point. 2015, obviously UK was undefeated at that point, but people were definitely talking about that UK team as one of the best teams in recent memory at that point. Ryan, I think it was you that put into the group chat, I forget what the exact numbers are, but Duke's, adjusted efficiency, their net rating on KenPom right now is something like top 5 of the last 25 seasons or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
3 were 5.
It's very, very high. Now, there are mitigating circumstances to that, and there's a lot of basketball left to play. Generally speaking, you'll see numbers that are probably a little bit higher, that because teams invariably end up losing games, right? They end up dipping some. But I mean, it's very, very encouraging that we're even remotely having this conversation at this point.
Well, real quick, Zion, I have a question for you though, because at this point of this, obviously, like we said, a lot of games left. Who do you take as the better team, right? Who would you take right now as a better team? We talk about if this team was 18-0. Are you already saying this team's better than the 2022 team?
I'm not saying anything. I think.
Sorry, I know you're not saying that. I'm asking.
Yeah.
What would you? Where would you put these 2 then?
To be honest, I was gonna tweet the other day, maybe we should just stop talking and just wait till the end of the season.
Right.
I was doing that just really. I was doing this on Twitter maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, just in comparison, just because it's always a fun debate, and there's always that argument of who's better and who. Personally, I did say I'd take this team over 2019. That was my whole argument. I like this team better in 2019. 2022 was just a little it's harder. It becomes a little hazier. So I'll let really the end of year tell me who's better.
Well, of course, right?
Yeah.
Any of these conversations, I think we can say we're not saying that they are better than that team as a whole. We can look at, do we think we are better at mid-January than 2019 Duke or 2022 Duke, right? And I would say we're definitely better than 2022 Duke at mid-January. I think that would be really hard to dispute. 2019 Duke was really, really good at mid-January, but we had lost at home to Syracuse in that game. I would imagine our metrics are better this year mid-January than they were in 2019 mid-January. Yeah, so I mean, if you wanted to argue at mid-January, was this team better than 2019 mid-January? I think that's a very reasonable argument.
It's hard with 2019 because 2019 had better wins and a better conference to play in. So yeah. I can't really even say that. I don't know when the Virginia game was, so I know they played Virginia twice that year. I don't know when the first one was, so can't really do that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think if we compare the makeup of the team, which roster do I like better? I like this roster better than a lot of rosters the past. This is my favorite roster since 2015. In general, I feel like from what I see, from the talent I look at, I think it's the most complete team I've seen since 2015. I also think it's just the deepest team we've had since 2015. So I can say that, just off of roster and makeup, even gelling wise, I think it may go that far.
Dude, I don't even know. I want to I feel inclined to give a vague pushback. We had not yet played. So it's January 18th, and the first game against UVA in 2019 was January 19th. So it technically doesn't include that. But we had blown out Kentucky. We beat Auburn neutral court, and we beat Texas Tech neutral court. We beat FSU on the road. I mean, this year, winning at Arizona is a huge game. Winning Auburn at home. Auburn is also one of the best teams of the last 25 years from the metrics. That's a huge win. Louisville on the road is aging incredibly well, I should say. I don't know that it'll quite get to FSU on the road 2019, but it's right up there. It's not that far away from that. This conference sucks, but we're still a top 30 strength of schedule right now in the country. It's gonna get worse as it goes because we're gonna have to play a bunch of bums. But I don't know. I still think there's plenty of argument in terms of the difficulty that we've played. Furthermore, just the balance of this team. I mean, 2019 had some obvious holes, shall we say, in terms of the balance. Whereas here we're top 40 in 3-point percentage, we're top 15 2-point percentage, top 40 in turnover rate, top 50 offensive rebound rate, top 20 defensive rebound rate, top 25 in terms of not fouling shooters. We're second overall in holding team in defensive 2-point percentage. We're top 30, almost top 25 in assist rate. I mean, we are nailing everything. There's not a lot where you look at it and you go, where's the stuff? Even now, I was griping, previously in the season that we weren't getting to the foul line enough, that we were taking too many jump shots. Even that's starting to move a little more in the right direction, right? In the last few games. That's something that is obviously very encouraging. It could be better, but it's moving in the right direction. I don't know, man. I think that I still think that this team, the sheer balance of it across the board, rivals all the best Duke teams. Our free throw percentage is almost top 50 in the country. That was certainly something that 2015 Duke, occasionally had some issue with. Obviously, man, it's a really balanced team. I'm really, really pleased.
Yeah, and the fact that this team plays both sides of the ball at the rate that they do is so. Makes my argument for this team over a lot of the teams of the past, just because it's so well rounded on both sides. It helps a lot. Researcher Russ cooking as always. But yeah, I think, and like you said, Zion, with the depth of this team, I mean, we're getting we're getting all these vets to click at the right time. And I say right time, it's still mid-January, but like I was kind of worried about Mason Gillis back in mid-December. And I think there's still some worries about Concanipple consistency-wise. And then basically with Foster's just inability to really show up at all this year, having a guy like Isaiah Evans to fill that void has been super helpful as well. So it's just kind of been like one guy has a bad game and there's always someone there to pick it up. And that kind of speaks to the depth you were talking about, Zion.
Yeah. And like, Caleb is maybe the one that I feel like, okay, what's going on right now? But like, kind of like I said, I think the last episode we had, I just don't think it's where we need Caleb to be, that impactful. If we're getting what we want from our starting lineup and we're getting one or two pieces off the bench, to contribute like tonight. There's not that much pressure on him to be the guy that we thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we feel like we were over? Do we feel like I think I know the answer to this. The answer is yes. I feel like we were over hyping or overvaluing what we thought his step was going to be this season. I don't recall him being like, he was decent last year before his injury, but I don't remember. He shot the ball, obviously, he shot it over 40% from three, but I just taking that step from year one to year two always seems to be something that we look for in these guys. And it always takes that third year for it to happen, plus coming off an injury. Like, I feel like the pressure on him to start the year the way he left off before his injury last year was just maybe a little unfair, and maybe his confidence, he looks like his confidence is shot even when he is out there too. So I'm concerned for him for the rest of this season. Obviously the depth that we have helps, but going forward, if he's on the roster next year, I'm starting to get a little concerned for what that looks like. And I know people have been wondering what we think about Foster, so I'll let you guys take it from there.
He just showed up in big games last year, right? Like in tier A games, researcher Russell coming back out, like in the 8 tier A games that we had, he shot 62.5% from three in those games. He made almost 50% of his twos. He made all of his free throws, right? Like he was on in those games. He was cooking, right? And honestly, if you took out our games against our toughest opponents last year, his numbers probably look very similar to what they look like this year. What can I say? He was completely on in those big games last year. This year, he has been off. He's improving a little in ACC play in terms of just how disastrous the beginning of the year was. They're still not nearly the numbers that we want, but like his conference only 2-point percentage is what it was last year. A little better is 3-point percentage, 35% in conference play. That's not awful. The free throws are still not ideal, but again, he's shooting more or less what he did last year, a little worse. I just kind of wonder I wonder if the assignment of him running the point was like, that feels like it was such a big shift from what he was last year, where last year he was like the guy cooking off the bench, right? Mm-hmm. And then to ask a guy who last year had a negative assist rate to turnover rate to be like, hey, you are going to run the offense of this team that is filled with good passers. That's a really, really big ask. And last year defensively, again, he wasn't great. I wonder if the injury sort of maybe hurt some of the development on that end in terms of what we would expect from a freshman to sophomore year. I wonder if maybe like focusing on trying to run the point, maybe that came to the detriment of some other things. I don't know. It's all speculative. But I agree that he just doesn't seem like he has the confidence that he had in the big games last year. I'd love to see it back. I'd love to see him back in some capacity, like the guy that we had last year in those big games. I think he can still like uncork that at a key moment this season. But, to Zion's point, I don't think it's necessary for this team to still, reach its heights, to reach the peak.
Yeah, I definitely think, kind of like what you said, with the point guard position, I think we definitely, I mean, as a fan, as myself, I think I'm guilty of it as well. maybe envisioned him in that role, kind of like we saw what he did in high school. You know what he was accustomed to, being like that ball dominant guard that can get a bucket anytime he wants. But he showed flashes last year of also being a good facilitator at times, or having vision. But he just, I don't think he's been comfortable in his role, and you can kind of see the confidence on him is shot because he has a move every now and then like that. You're like, dang, he looks like a pro. Like
Yeah.
he'll get to the rim and he won't finish it, and he'll blow the layup. And it's happened way too consistently this year. And at that point, it's not, he's capable of making that shot. It's just a mental game at this point where he doesn't have the confidence to fully finish.
Yeah.
And that's just been like, it's been disappointing to see, not from a standpoint of like, oh, we expect him to be better. It's just like, the kid is talented. Like, the kid is very talented.
So talented.
What he can bring to the table, and he's just like, you're not seeing the results. And it's tough on him because the team is going. Like, the team is cooking. Like, and he's kind of fell back from being one of the leaders. Remember, this was a guy that was at ACC Media Day, looked at maybe potential captain, hyped up, and now
a bunch of people thought he'd be the leading scorer potentially. There was that.
I mean, I was guilty of that. I was guilty of that too. I'm not going, I'll be honest. I was guilty of that too.
I was gonna say, I don't want to go back and listen to that because I probably was one of them too.
But like, that's because we've seen the talent, and I know it's hard for him being maybe at this point he's the 9th man at this point, and maybe 10th. Maybe when Malik is healthy, maybe 10th, because Pat is now, filling in with some minutes, but more so the 9th. But like, Isaiah is what he is, Mason is what he is, so it's tough for him to kind of go through what he's going through right now. So you got to feel for him.
Yeah, I want to point out too that outside of those big games, I mean, he shot from 2-point. He shot 37% from 2 last year. So failing to finish like inside was also something that happened last year. Like, it was just in a couple of big games he was absolutely nailing those layups, right? So like in those games, it was great, and people remember that. They don't remember all the games against worse competition where he was not able to finish those shots. That's still a part of his game that needs to get more consistent at the D1 high major level. He's still young. He's still, relatively new. I mean, it's just when you have the I was a 5-star guy hype, especially when this year so many of the 5-star guys in this particular class have come through and played really, really well. But not all 5-stars are necessarily created equal. Some need more time. He might just be a guy that needs a little more time. He might just need some consistent health, some reps. Yeah, I mean, hopefully this season with us getting big leads, hopefully he'll get some of those reps that he needs and try to find his way back a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, but not to harp too much on Caleb Foster. Cooper Flagg, man, another master class, looking like the clear national player of the year. Actually, in fact, let me segue into this because I wanted to talk about this today. Let me share this. Andrea Carter had some interesting thoughts. I don't know if y'all saw it, but we'll play the audio for those listening on the Spotify or Apple.
Auburn is the most complete team, but Duke's ceiling, I think, is still scary. Iowa State, Houston, still there, but I think Duke has the most potential at the end of the day.
It's hard for me. I love this Duke team. I love the way they play. They have this system offensively, but to me, everything still surrounds Cooper Flagg. They have a ton of talent, but who creates for that talent? Cooper Flagg creates for everybody. He is the centerpiece for everything that he can do it, but more often than not, they rely on Cooper Flagg.
They're playing without a dominant point guard. They're playing without a dominant ball guard.
Yeah.
All right. So they run their offense through Cooper Flagg, correct? And that's a good thing.
I don't know if that's a good thing because even when you talk about a team being full strength, right, so everybody's healthy, there's still in-game slippage. They're still having an off night. There's still foul trouble. And to me, Auburn is the best team because they have the most depth to withstand those in-game obstacles.
All right, Andrea Carter. Some. Was it a hot take? What's your thoughts on that right there?
I mean, I'll say this. we have a clear sample from Auburn that they can win hard games without Janai Broom. Like, they do have that. We don't have that really with Duke, I don't think.
Hopefully don't have to either.
We don't have to, but I mean, I think the argument, if you were going to take her side of the argument, is it sounds to me like she is arguing if Cooper Flagg is having an off night, then Duke is in trouble. And there might be some validity to that against top-tier opponents because Cooper Flagg is such an integral part of the mix, and he is still young, even though he's National Player of the Year. I don't think he's immune to the possibility of having an off night. So I don't know. I think that Auburn is deserving of being called the number one team in the country, obviously based on, resume. But Duke has shown that they can clearly compete. I mean, obviously we saw it at home what Duke can do against Auburn. It's just we were texting about it a little bit earlier. It's pretty wild watching Auburn play these games that are really tough without Janai Broom, and they're still winning because Pettiford is just such an absolute stud.
Yeah.
They have two bona fide, flat out go and win you a game single-handedly studs. And does Duke have a second guy that if Cooper Flagg is, let's say he's got the flu and can't play, do we have a guy that will just throw the team on his back and carry this team to victory the way that Auburn has when they don't have Broom? I don't know that Duke does have that. I don't think it's being entirely fair either. I do think that it's fine to run the offense through Cooper Flagg, but I think the point about so much of it is reliant on him and Auburn has more depth in that respect. I think that's probably a fairly fair take.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, to your most recent point there, I don't know if Duke would need a guy to have them to be put on a certain person's back in that situation. I mean, you would just look at Tyrese Proctor, Isaiah Evans, and Con Knipple a lot more. And I think that's also a good thing. Like, we don't have to rely on one other guy as a volume scorer. And so, I mean, her point's not super far off. Obviously, people in the comments are saying we beat Auburn. We did. And
at Cameron.
But
not to dismiss it, but
yeah, I wholeheartedly understand that point.
Yeah.
But to me, that gets, and I get it. It's an old, that game was over a month ago now. It's tough for me, and I'm fine with Auburn being ranked ahead of us. I don't care. They're a great team. They're efficient. They have they're a great team. I have no hate against Auburn, and it's just, to me, it's at some point these head-to-head matchups have to matter. And again, if Duke beating a team at home is Duke only beat them at home. They didn't beat them on a neutral court. And I'm not saying you're saying this, but I just get a little bit tired of but Duke won the game. They did what they had to do. Auburn didn't win. Duke did, and I don't think that necessarily means that Duke's the better team all around right now in a neutral court, but it has to mean something, right? And it will mean.
But I really want to counter this, Ryan. I really want to counter this, because are you saying Kansas is better than Duke?
No, I'm saying that has to count for something, though. I'm saying recently, I literally just said Auburn might be the better team right now. That game was a while ago, but just the fact that win basically after a week goes away because Duke won at Cameron, and Auburn ended up beating whoever they've beaten in the SEC so far. I'm not saying that these games you beat someone head to head in November, December, it means something that it doesn't. I'm just saying Duke beat them at home. That's it. It still counts. They played the game and they won. I get both sides of it. It's just a little frustrating when it's Duke beat them when they were at home where they played them. What else is Duke supposed to do? So her point isn't, in my opinion, back to that video, it's not far off. I don't know if Jay Will and Seth said on the video, I think she got it wrong with we don't. She said he basically runs the offense, and I get it. We don't have a ball dominant guard, but the offense goes through our best player. Big deal. It does that on a lot of teams, and so
yeah, I agree. I agree there.
What was that?
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah.
And but the way she was talking about it, I guess maybe seemed like she hasn't watched a lot of Duke basketball, and honestly, for the last month, there hasn't been a game to watch if you're someone who is talking about the entirety of college basketball. There's been much better games to watch recently than Duke games. So it is what it is.
Did she say anything that made us think that it was factually inaccurate to how Duke plays or anything like that? I didn't think so.
I think that what she said that was wrong was, I don't know if that's a good thing.
Right. That's an opinion for sure. But I think she has watched enough Duke basketball. Or at least she didn't say anything that made me think she doesn't watch Duke basketball. Everything she said that was in terms of the facts of the matter, her facts were straight. It's just her opinion of she clearly would prefer have a ball dominant point guard in March than have a team run through a guy like Cooper Flagg that's also very young. I disagree with that, but it's an opinion for sure.
I think another thing she said that was a little like maybe got people pissed off was she says like there's no one else to like create a play or like play make, which is probably inaccurate, which we've seen at times. Khan has had 8 assists. Sion could have 8 assists. It's still within the offense for sure, but there are definitely other guys.
Yeah, James is definitely our like other good creator at this point for others. Absolutely.
There are other guys that can make plays for sure. I think it's not, there hasn't been a Duke team that doesn't have a number one that they play through heavily. That's just the nature of it, especially when you have these guys who are going to be top 5 picks or wherever they are. They're going to be featured heavily. You're going to play through them 24/7. It happened with Jaleel, happened with Zion. Although there were other players, there were other key cogs in the machine. If the main cog is getting all the attention, they're getting the rock. We're playing through them 24/7. I actually think Duke has been way better since November, playing less through Cooper. Finding him off, putting him off the ball. Putting him in the post. Like, let's not just give the ball to him at the top of the key and let him like that's not his game. But I was throwing that out there because that seemed to rile up a lot of Duke Twitter today. Next, number 1, I got a foreshadow. We got to do our midseason grades. Midseason grades. Last year, I remember all the chatter, the flip talk. I remember y'all calling me crazy. Remember y'all calling me crazy with the flip grade. I ended up being right there, but we'll do our mid-season grades on the next episode. Obviously, it'll be much easier than probably last year was. Probably a lot of good grades, but just a little foreshadow for the next episode. But another question I have for y'all before we get into the Jalen Blakes, because
are we not doing midseason grades?
Not this episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, separate episode. We gotta get the people. The people have been begging for episodes, Russ. We gotta feed them.
Begging for.
So did Duke already beat the second best team in the ACC in Louisville?
Yes.
Yeah.
Next question.
But are we sure that the second best? Do we believe Clemson coming up? Wake Forest, I think, is 5-1. They're 5-1.
Wake is definitely not the second best team in the conference.
Hey,
no, they're Ken Palmer. They're like
they're not even in the tournament right now.
Let's see. Let's go by the Ken Palmer can't group by they can't group.
No, but Wake Forest is like 75th on Ken Palmer.
Yeah, you can group by conference if you have a subscription.
Oh, I'm not paying for that nonsense. I don't buy you.
Ryan, in the ACC, Duke is number 1 overall for everywhere. Clemson is 26th.
Yeah, look, I got it on the screen.
Just Command F ACC, and you'll see Clemson.
Okay. Yeah, it has Clemson slightly above Louisville. I think that the eye test for me, like Clemson and Louisville I think would basically be on a neutral court, like a coin flip. For me, Louisville passes the eye test more. Like that offense just hums, man. Like they move the ball. It looks pretty. It looks nice. Clemson has that thing where like they just kind of outwork teams. And I think that there's real value to that. I think it results in in wins, but like they take a lot of jump shots. I don't always love a lot of their jump shots. You know, they're shooting a very, very high percentage from three. I guess that's still sustainable. They don't have a very large bench. I mean, I know Louisville like lost somebody, so their bench isn't that great either. But like, I don't know. The eyeball test to me says that Louisville is better than Clemson.
I don't like Louisville, man. See, I got to purchase a subscription. You see that? I don't like Louisville, man. No, let me not say I don't like Louis. Not that I don't like Louisville. I don't think they're that good. I just don't. I know we caught them when they just lost prior. But even watching their game against Carolina at home, just nothing struck me like, oh, this is such a good team. It was just bad basketball from both teams. Both teams just look bad to me. They have some good wins. I watched a little bit of the game against Pitt, but Pitt is also they're broken. Clearly, they're broken right now.
Pitt is bad.
They look awful. So
I tried to tell y'all, man. I tried to tell y'all.
No, I don't know. They didn't look like this, bro. They did not look like this, bro.
Yeah, but eventually, like if you just keep playing the like give the ball to the guy and go, all right, just do it on your own and see what happens. Like eventually that shit's gonna bite you in the ass, man. It just will. Like, like Blake Hinson ain't walking through that door. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man.
Bob Carrington ain't walking through that door.
But they were saying Jalen Lowe is an NBA guard eventually. Like that.
He's pretty good. Like Leggett is pretty good. Like, don't get me wrong, they're pretty good. They're NIT good, right? They're like a good NIT team. There's no shame in that, but like that's what they are. I think.
Argue with that. I just think right now, if I had to pin one, I think it's Clemson as of now, just because Louisville hasn't struck me from what I've seen. Like I think they've had some good wins. I think they're hot right now, but if that's the second best team, I don't even think we played well against Louisville, and we still won by 14. That would scare me. At least Clemson, they beat Kentucky. They probably have the best win that we don't have. I think probably, yeah. They beat Kentucky. So I would hope it's Clemson. So we can.
Yeah. I would think that with Clemson, the one thing that they do have is they shoot the ball better than Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
They've got that. They definitely have that. And so that counts for something. I do think that, but like Louisville's got that weird thing where they're not making like their threes at a very high percentage necessarily, but they take a ton of them. They play a pretty fast offense. They get offensive rebounds and they get to the free throw line. I mean, like Clemson has that thing where I don't think they get to the free throw line much. I don't have it pulled up, but like, yeah, they're one of the worst high major teams at getting to the free throw line. Louisville gets there a lot. So like Clemson just has those stretches where if the jumpers aren't falling, then like what do they have? Like at least with Louisville, I know they've got ways to score. Clemson, I don't know, man. I think Clemson's a tournament team. Let's not like get it twisted. I think Clemson is a tournament team. I think they're a good team. I think they are clearly a top 3 team in the ACC. But if you were asking me to choose between Clemson and Louisville, I would take Louisville. I like Pat Kelsey. I think Chucky Hepburn's been good. That one guy for Louisville can really get hot and shoot the ball well. Smith is unreal when he gets moving, and he shoots so many threes. My God, they've obviously still got Terrence Edwards. Yeah, I kind of like the upside there. Clemson is like one bad shooting night away from like having no chance.
That's fair. I mean, Shufflin and Hunter. Not too bad themselves, but
they're not. Maybe this is more a tournament mindset too, right? Like I like Louisville more in a tournament setting than Clemson. Maybe Clemson would beat Louisville. Maybe Clemson has some of the stuff there to win more games in conference than Louisville. Maybe, I don't know, but I like Louisville on the whole a little bit more. But those are your top 3, I think.
Yeah. It's still a bad top 3. Also, like I said, might be at the Clemson game. Might be thinking about making that trip. We got my boy is down in South Carolina, so If anybody that's reminds me, everybody got a Clemson ticket plug because I looked at those tickets. Those tickets kind of ridiculous. I'm not paying for that. So if you got a plug, hit me up.
It is hard to play there too. That's something that Clemson has. Clemson has a great home court.
Yeah,
a great home court.
That's probably the toughest road game. I feel like at this point,
it's the toughest one that we have left. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, some people might get mad that I just said that, but it's one of the 2 toughest ones that we have left for sure.
But yeah.
But speaking of, maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Should we segue
Dr. Chaos?
Yeah, but without them, this wasn't possible. I still have Duke blood in me, so it's still GTHC.
Yes, sir. GTHC. Man,
I love him, man. I love him. Some of y'all tried to clown me last year when I said he's one of like my favorite players in a while. Like he's the sort of dude that I hate like when people use this phrase, but he plays the right way. You know what I mean? Like he is never not given 110% on any possession. And I absolutely love players who play that way. I put in the Trilly Discord after like who was it, Trimble, who went to the line on whatever that ridiculous foul call was down the stretch that was going to put UNC in the lead potentially. Even before those free throws went up, I put in the Trilly Discord. I was like, Jalen Blake's coast to coast for the win, and it happened. It happened, and I've never been happier to be right in my whole life.
And he did it on a play, and I haven't watched. I'm not gonna lie, I have hardly had time to watch Duke this year, so I haven't watched much of the ACC, specifically Stanford. But I don't think he. That's not from his Duke days. That's not a shot he normally would stop and take. It's normally he would have just gone to the rim and like thrown up something crazy. Him hitting a step back floater in Chapel Hill to me is like icing on the cake. That's not a Jalen Blake shot. At least not at Duke. It wasn't. So to
He
see
was
that
in control. He had some stretches at Duke. He had a couple of games in there. Like I forget, there was that stretch. Was it last year or the year before where Jeremy was struggling, and so Jalen was playing more? And he had a couple of games in there where I was like, he might have like some things, he might have a little more than he's getting to show here. I didn't think it was like this much more. I didn't think it was like I don't know that he's going to be all ACC or anything, but like he's putting up very impressive numbers for Stanford. So I'm really, really impressed and couldn't be happier for Jalen Blake.
Nah, yeah, this is definitely like something, and this is something we can claim too. A lot of people, I saw Carolina fans talking about, oh, you got mad at us when we claimed Caleb. Well, you pitched out Caleb Love. Caleb Love has also played at Arizona now for 2 years. It was a little split time. Jalen Blakes is a Duke grad. He reps Duke. He's going to rep Duke till he dies.
He didn't get run out of town either.
Yeah. And
he chose. It was, he chose. I'm be honest. I'm telling you all the truth. He was planning to dip out before the storm was coming with the roster.
I don't think he mentions UNC in his press conferences though, or any other publicly as like Jalen Blake said. So
come on now. But yeah, man, that was such a dope moment. His numbers are crazy. 14, 3 and 5. 44%. They're better than Jeremy Roach's number. Oh, was I not supposed to say that?
And they're almost.
I didn't say it. Let the record show. I didn't say it.
They're almost even with Caleb Love's numbers too, for that matter.
Hey, because a lot of y'all were saying at the beginning of the season, oh, we lost to Kentucky. Oh, Jeremy Roach we should have kept Jeremy Roach, bro. Should have kept Jeremy. Maybe it was Jalen Blake's. I don't know.
You're in trouble, dude.
Man, but that was also a crazy. I did call it out at the time. Why did people want Jeremy Roach on this team? Respectfully, like with the defensive makeup of this team, what made you want Jeremy Roach on this team? I just didn't.
I'll tell you exactly what it is, Ian. It's the same thing that made him immune to even the mildest criticism on like Duke Twitter and Duke social media circles, which was he has made big shots in some big games. Mm-hmm. Like it's the same thing with Caleb like last year, right? When you make big shots in big key moments, the rest of it doesn't matter. Like it genuinely does not matter. And I'm not saying that as like a negative, right? Like there are Duke players that have, maybe had some struggles, but then had some big moments where that sort of washed away some of those struggles. Like that's human nature, right? Like, but that didn't change the fact that the defense was never very good. It was his senior year, it was okay. And then before that, it was not okay. I think it's okay to say things that are balanced and fair while also saying, hey, we think this guy is great. He's a great representative for the university, but also here is some very reasonable and valid criticism of him. I think that's completely reasonable. What's not reasonable is saying like he sucks or screw him or some of the things that people say online. Those things, forget anyone who says those things. But reasonable criticism of any player, I think, is always fair. And I think the Roach criticism, at least from this podcast, I think was generally quite fair.
Yeah, I don't even think we really. I mean, you definitely did have some criticism.
I got yelled at because I would bring up the defense, and everyone would be like, but he makes big shots.
Yeah, from a back like Russ said, I think Jeremy, great dude. Obviously did a lot for the program. 4 years, he sweat, and bled Duke blue. But when you look at the team, you look at the basketball perspective of it. I mean, it's hard to make an argument for him. That's what all I'm saying. And do you guys try to
hard to make an argument for him on this team making the team notably better is what you're saying.
Exactly. And
especially on the defensive end. Like maybe on offense, he might be hitting some of the shots that some of the other people might not be hitting. I think that's probably a fair thing for someone to counter with. But also last year was by far his best shooting year, like by far. By like miles and miles and miles, by far his best shooting year. So, like this year, him shooting 36% from three, 33% in conference play in the Big 12, those are basically his career numbers. Like last year was a huge anomaly in that respect. And I love him for it, but it's not a guarantee that if he came back, he would have shot 43%, 44% from three again. That's just not what he had ever done before that. Like sample size does matter at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. And, it is what it is. He's at Baylor now. He's not, Blue Devil. So I don't want to talk too much about Jeremy Roach. He
helped us in some very big spots. Yeah.
But the team is cooking, man. The team. I love the roster we have now. It's been a terrific start to the season. What we got next?
Can I bring up James again? I don't know. Did y'all talk about James before I came on?
No, did we? I don't remember.
I mean, I just mentioned that he's been solid and is probably going under the radar for a lot of people. So that was about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's shooting 58% from two, 39% from three. A little under 75% from the free throw line, but that's at 85% in conference play. He's top 12 in the ACC in assist rate right now, and he's got a good turnover rate, against that. Again, top 12 O rating in the ACC right now, top 200 nationally in O rating. I mean, I think because he doesn't score a ton of points, people underestimate the impact that he has. And Ryan, to go back to something that you said earlier about Cooper, if Cooper was out, like Tyrese and Isaiah Evans, some of them would pick up the slack. But who would pick up his defensive slack, right? If Cooper was out. I think that's another key point there. And that's another thing for Sion that I think is really, really important. The defense is so much better when he's out there. He's so good defensively. Like, I can't emphasize enough just how validated I feel for having him be my man crush of the year coming into the season. Because he is great on both ends of the floor, even when he's not scoring a ton of points. So valuable to this team. He and Malik both make such a huge difference, even when they don't score the basketball very much.
For sure. I mean,
both of them.
You look at the box score, 6, 7, and 6 tonight. I mean, it's just consistent with him. He's always going to have like a large.
Did he do that tonight? I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a cool line.
6. That's what he brings us. It's just consistency.
An O rating of 172. Get out of here, dude. Unreal.
I didn't realize Isaiah had 16 tonight. I know he had 4
Mhm.
threes. I didn't know he had 16 overall. But yeah,
even against Miami, a game where he did 5, 2, and 5 with 1 turnover, 3 blocks, and a steal. I feel like people see the 5 and they're like, "Oh, that's not that sexy." But like, he just contributes on both ends so much. Like, I mean, yeah, he's another guy that I feel like we can't really easily replace his minutes when he's not out there.
for sure. I mean, his stat line is not even eye popping 7.6, 4.4, 2.9. Same thing with Malik. Like the numbers won't fully tell the story of the type of player they are. And like Sion, to me, he like I tweeted before, I think he's an all ACC caliber player if you put him in the right situation. But this team is just overloaded with talent. That's just what it is. So
he's trying to win, is what he's trying to do.
Exactly. He's playing his role, and that's what we
what
need.
A pickup! What a pickup!
Sorry, Cook, man. Like we can't say it enough, man. Like there was even this summer, there was a little bit of doubt in my mind. Like, okay, when we lost the last transfer we had, I was like, okay, so what are we gonna do? What are we gonna like? We have to do something. And every move was a hit. Every single move was a hit.
Well, that Sion news came so late in the game too, like because he was going through the draft process.
Right.
I feel like that was not like we kept hearing all these names of people that like Duke was going after, and some of them didn't like make a ton of sense. And it was like, well, what exactly is happening? Why would we be going after these people if there is somebody in the NBA draft process that we feel really good about? Like, what exactly is going on here? How much of it's smoke and mirrors? It's hard to say. But I feel like the Sion news like hit all of a sudden, and that was when the hype, at least my own personal hype, really like went overboard. Because like, I mean, imagine if we don't have Sion for those 27 minutes a game this year. I mean, like, who takes? I mean, obviously Caleb plays a lot more. Gillis plays more. Maybe Darren Harris plays more, but like Sion is just so good.
And he was even accepting of the early bench
absolutely
spot he had, and it was clear he was the best option in the lineup. So Shire credit Shire too. He made that move quick.
Pretty early.
That was early. Like he didn't waste time, and it was the best move for the team, and they haven't lost with
other coaches. Other coaches would have let him would have let the lineup stay the way it was for another month or two.
Are you referring to coach down the road?
I'm referring to several possible other unnamed coaches.
Okay. But yeah, I think
you're not getting me in trouble. Not today.
All right. Hey man, we still got 2 more podcasts left in the span of 7 days, so you're gonna say something. But yeah, loving where the team is at right now. Another great win. We'll be back whenever we record this mid-season grades. Someone asked about mid-season grades. You're not tricking me. We're not getting to that right now. We got to have a separate episode. I promised that to y'all, so we got to get to y'all. But yeah, fellas, any final thoughts on tonight's drubbing?
Shout out to Mason Gillis for the needless dunk at the end to cover the spread.
Hey man, I usually am not a fan of that, but it was a fast break, so you could do whatever you want. I don't know.
He got elbowed like 8 times that during.
It was a dirty night. Yeah,
he earned that dunk.
You got Duke transfer legend Patrick DePay. No. Hey, let's time to end the show. Appreciate y'all.
Where's he now? Where's he at?
I think he's in. He might be in Africa playing. He was in the BAL last time I checked.
Oh, really? That's cool. Good for him.
I don't know if he's still there, but yeah, forgettable transfer. But we appreciate y'all for tuning in. Like I said, keep an eye out for a mid-season grades show that will not be live. We'll be recording that offline, and we'll be back next Saturday. Wake Forest. That's actually a big game, so we gotta recap that one. So enjoy the week off. We'll try to feed y'all with as much content as possible in this dry spell. But hey, man, 16-2, can't complain. Shout out to Duke, big win. Shout out Jalen Blakes. Go Duke. Appreciate you.